I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another night of iRacing action here on the National Racing Network. Is tonight the stars and cars of the ESRA INDYCAR Series get ready to do battle at a place that is traditionally the home of preseason testing for the IndyCars. We're heading off to Sebring. This one is going to be an interesting battle here tonight, coming up over the next 50 minutes. My name is Chris Graham. We thank you so much for hanging out with us here tonight. Let's give you a little bit of a rundown here as we take a look at the wide shot over the Sebring. It really is an old airfield located in Sebring, Florida. 3.74 miles, just over 6 kilometers in length, 16 turns. Originally opened in 1950, and tonight it will be round number 9 of the championship. As we mentioned, 50 minutes will be the race distance. Cautions are local only. So, no restarts, none of that kind of stuff. Overtime will not come into play either here. The big one, the championship battle. Major championship implications here tonight with only 2 races left in the season. Matt Wagner holding a 15-point lead over Conor Baldwin. And Matt Wagner just getting into the session a moment or so ago. James Watson sitting third in points, TJ McMurray, Alec Coates. None of these drivers are mathematically out of the championship battle just yet. We'll talk about pit strategy here in just a couple of minutes, but first, we got to get qualifications rolling here, and let's take a look at things on the timing tower, and we'll pick up Conor Baldwin as he makes his way around the racetrack, up under one of the bridges here. Trying to get some heat filled up in those tires. One of the important things that will come into play tonight is the fact that drivers have to use both compounds of Firestone rubber that are on offer. The black sidewall primary tires are going to be a little bit harder, last a little bit longer. The red tires are going to be significantly faster here around Sebring, but they're not going to last nearly as long. Almost everybody out on the racetrack right now, with the exception of Jason Hand, Vic Aldrich, TJ McMurray, and Matt Wagner. Conor Baldwin going to come across the line, and he will be one of the first cars to get out onto a flying lap. Turn 1, very tricky here at Sebring. The way it it opens up on entry and then very quickly narrows. The snap through turn 2, turn 3, not really a passing opportunity because you got to switch immediately back for turns 4 and 5. Finish the combination here at turn number 6. Long run here through this sweeping corner. Here's one of your better passing opportunities, except kind of the same deal. You're going to end up potentially having to either run somebody off the road or force them onto an off-nominal line. For how big and how fast this place is, there's actually not that many great passing opportunities at Sebring. Down the long back straightaway and out of the final corner is basically going to be it. Right up here into this section is about where you're going to see some of the passing attempts made. Then the long run down this back straightaway. These kind of set it up at the exit of the corner. Run the big blast down the back straightaway. Hard onto the brakes. You make the dive into the corner. That's one of the spots that you can get it done. But you got to be wary of the crossover coming out of the final corner and a very short blast to the start-finish line. Lap number 1 on the board for Conor Baldwin. 1 minute 41.080. Ty Richter going to be 2/10 back. In second, Alec Coates, a further almost 5/10 back of Richter's time. In third, Gary Corley. Well, Gary Corley was fourth. Now A.J. Digby going to be fourth at a 1:42, 1:48, 1:44.1 to 3.3 seconds lap time for Gary Corley. A little bit of a surprise. Christian Jasper only going to be fifth quick on his first lap. Let's pick up the pilot of the number 44. Three cars all within, we'll say, right around a half second of each other. Then it's a full second back to Digby in the fourth position. That second group of cars only separated by about a half second. A.J. Digby, Christian Jasper, and Jeff Destino. See what Vic Aldrich is going to be able to do as he comes across the line here momentarily. Vic Aldrich going to time in at sixth quick, 1 minute 42.287 seconds. Down to about 4.5 minutes left in qualifications. Conor Baldwin's hot lap was a good one. Let's pick up James Watson as he's about halfway through his first qualification lap. The proprietor of Team Watson Racing and Team Watson Racing Setups. Going to try to get that car up towards the head of the field here. The other one we have not seen on the racetrack yet is Matt Wagner, and that one is going to be one of the big storylines here tonight. How does the battle for the championship shake out? It's only a 15-point lead, but depending on how things shake out here, Matt Wagner could theoretically lock up the championship here tonight. Should there be an issue for Conor Baldwin, Baldwin going to have to really race within himself. The kid is blindingly fast at times, but you can't make any unforced errors as James Watson moves up to sixth quick on the board at a 1 minute 41.821. So again, we're looking at about, top three cars. Man, I guess we'll say it this way. Top 7 are within 1.25 seconds of each other. However, on a road course like Sebring, that is an absolute ton of time. Nick DeGroot out on the racetrack. He is absolutely junked that number 89 machine. James Watson, the only car left circulating at this point. Waiting on Jason Hand and TJ McMurray and Matt Wagner. That's going to be the big one to see what Wags is going to be able to do here. Trying to defend the number 1. And pick up another ESRA IndyCar Series championship. Maybe a little bit of a bobble there on the upshift for James Watson. Grabbing one gear too many. Heard the car really rev up there. Sometimes you got to do that to get the torque down, though. So Watson comes around out of the final corner. He crosses the line, but the lap is not going to score. In fact, well, it scores, but it wasn't very good. 1 minute 45.054. So now we wait to see if Matt Wagner will reappear on pit lane with 1 minute and 25 seconds left on the clock. There's not enough time for Matt Wagner to get around the racetrack. This one is going to be interesting. Matt Wagner will have to start this race from the back of the field. Down to the final 60 seconds in qualifying, but Conor Baldwin will be your pole sitter here tonight. Let's take a look here and see if we can't find Conor to grab a quick word with him before we get ready to go racing here. Conor, looks like you will be the pole award winner tonight here. Congratulations on that. Got to feel pretty good to be starting at the front of the field, but there's a lot more pressure on you than just winning a pole position here tonight. Got to try to close that gap to Matt Wagner with only a couple of races left.
Oh, absolutely. Qualifying is really obvious that, and all of the Destino Motorsport guys qualified really well. Tied second right next to me, Christian, on the second row. So I'm thinking we all can run in a pack and really lock up those top spots so that I can get as many points as possible back on Matt Wagner.
All right, bud. Well, good luck here tonight, and we're looking forward to talking to you hopefully again once this race wraps up.
Thank you.
So there you go. Matt Wagner commenting, yes, the producer guy screwed up and has the wrong racetrack name on this one. Let's change this to Sebring. Wagner checking in saying qualifying is underrated. I think he means overrated. There you go, Matt. We got the title updated for you here, but cars are heading out to the grid. It is time to go racing. This one should be a fun night for sure. Let's pick these guys up. It will be a full pace lap. Let's get you ready to go with tonight's starting grid. Lining up on the pole out of the Republic of Texas, the number 21 Aero Info Baldwin Agriland entry of Conor Baldwin. Lining up to his outside will be Ty Richter. Alec Coates and Christian Jasper are going to make up row number 2 this evening. Row 3 will have AJ Digby and James Watson. Row number 4, Vic Aldrich and Jeff Destino. Gary Corley, Nick DeGroot on row number 5. DeGroot, the first of the cars that did not get a time in qualifications. Row number 6 will see Matt Wagner and TJ McMurray. And all alone on row number 7, the 00 of New York's Jason Hand. 13 cars on the grid for a 50-minute long race here this evening. Field going to pull away behind the iRacing safety car, and they will make their way around here. The blast to turn 1 is always exciting here at Sebring. Who is going to get through and who is going to wad it up big time, overcooking the entry. Drivers are going to try to get some heat filled up in the tires, doing a lot of brake tracking, maybe a little bit of weaving back and forth. Not much, as this place really isn't all that wide. But definitely lots of brake bias adjustments going on in these cars right now. And quite a bit of dragging the brake to make sure everything is up to temperature. Even if you're just heating the brakes and the hubs, still going to pass a little bit of that heat onto the tires all the way around here. Only one driver electing to start the race on the red tires. That will be Vic Aldrich in the 98, going a little bit off strategy. He's going to try to make up a bunch of positions early on. Likely that we'll see Vic Aldrich have to stop before everybody else. Nick DeGroot not making the starting grid. He will have to start from the pit lane. And once again, this one is a timed race. Hearing that the pit windows are going to be about 10 laps. At a minute 40-ish or so per lap, a minute 45. We can do some quick math here. 50 divided by 1.75. Going to mean, well, yeah, about 28 laps or so is the total number of what we're looking at. So it looks like it will be a two-stop race. Let's tell you about the pit strategy here and what these drivers will be contending with. Two stops, the fuel window, like we mentioned, about 10 laps. They do have the two compounds, and you must use both. That is a big one that we will keep an eye on for you here over the course of the race. Drivers will have one backup car available for their use should they need it, and I have a feeling that quite a bit of the field is likely to need a backup car here at some point in this race. Not for a lack of talent, but it is so easy to get over-aggressive here. Field going to get packed up nice and tidy down this backstretch into turns 15 and 16. Field finally making their way through the final couple of corners. We are going to get ready to go green flag racing. The safety car accelerates away. The field now under the control of Conor Baldwin. Down the front stretch, green flags in the air. We are underway here at Sebring. Baldwin gets a nice run. Oh, buddy, little bit of jockeying deeper in the pack. Big run up the outside. Couple of cars going to go wide. They'll be out onto the grass. Christian Jasper is one of those. He will lose a couple of spots in the process. That allows Baldwin to open things up. Oh, now trouble for Christian Jasper. He's gone around. Jeff Destino going to be involved as well. Christian Jasper has to take the tow back into the pit. Take a look, see what happened here. We saw Jasper get a little bit wide. Comes back out onto the racetrack. Oh, and he just got absolutely run over into turn number 3. Jason Hand having a little bit of an off-course excursion, as is Ty Richter. Nick DeGroot also getting off the racetrack. Alec Coates holding off AJ Digby, James Watson, and Vic Aldrich for the moment, as Conor Baldwin's opened the lead up to about 1.5 seconds already. So some early trouble for one of our contenders. We thought we might see some pretty big things out of Christian Jasper here this season. James Watson, AJ Digby going to battle here. They're going to trade spots. Oh, and Baldwin's in the wall! Trouble for race leader Conor Baldwin. Out of the final corner, the car got a little twitch hard into the tire barriers, and race leader Conor Baldwin will have to take the tow. That promotes Alec Coates up into the race lead, now making this fight between Watson and Digby a battle for the second position. We talked about Baldwin having to stay within himself in the cockpit of that race car. Overdriving it just a little bit too much early in the race. With Conor Baldwin going to have to wait out the time for the tow, as is Christian Jasper. Not sure how long the tow time is going to be for Baldwin. Oh, he got away with one there. Baldwin is back out on the racetrack and actually still on the lead lap. But well behind. He is going to have a ton of ground to make up. Matt Wagner, the other contender for the championship in car number 3. Another, well, he's the number 1 in timing and scoring, but he's the number 3 on the racetrack. Good-looking Team Penske-esque livery there. Alec Coates sets a new fastest lap of the race, quickly outdone by Vic Aldrich at a 144.475. So multiple storylines to follow along with here now. One of those being Nick DeGroot, electing to start from the pit lane. Avoids all the first lap chaos. DeGroot currently up into the 7th position. This race with big time potential here for James Watson. Currently running in the 2nd position, entering the night 3rd in the point standings. Let's see, 23 points back of your leader. Been a pretty decent season thus far for Watson, trying to contend. But now he's going to have to go to work, and unfortunately, he's going to have to try to hold off A.J. Digby. Digby going to get the big run down the backstretch here. I don't think he's going to be close enough to attempt to pass. And Digby will not. He's going to be content to kind of just sit there and ride around. Vic Aldrich, the strategy working thus far. Currently up to the 4th position as the only driver on the red tires. Christian Jasper finally getting back out onto the racetrack. And right now, this is really the only battle that is ongoing on the racetrack. Is this fight for second between Watson and Digby, so we're going to stay with it. Vic Aldrich sitting, called about 0.6 of a second back. Oh man, Digby almost into the back of Watson. So Watson holding off Digby, and in fact, Vic Aldrich starting to close in on the 14. Your top 4 all nose to tail. What looked like it could have been a runaway for Conor Baldwin goes up in smoke at the conclusion of lap number 1. Surf Gonzo checking into the comments here. Just joined in. Let's go, Vic. Well, Vic Aldrich on a little bit of an alternate strategy here, too. Getting the stint out of the way early for the red tires. Actually, not a terrible call either, because if Aldrich were to go that direction of short stint the Reds, long stint on the black tires, he really could make another stint on the Reds and try to really blast through some pretty quick laps late in this race when everybody else is on the black tires. However, what we heard from the drivers in the pre-race was that the black tires seem to be at their best at the very end of the fuel window. You can't double stint them per se, but it's definitely going to be an interesting strategy game that we see played out as Conor Baldwin just set a new fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 42.836 seconds. Trouble for Gary Corley out on the racetrack. Take a look, see what happened here to Corley in the Arrow McLaren colors. Oh, slides it wide hard into the tire barriers, and he has to take the tow back to the pit area. Question coming in from Nicholas Schwartz. When will you guys be at Snydersville again? That's a fantastic question. We'll have to work out the details with Alex Greenswig, the promoter up there, but we like getting up there to shoot Snydersville. It's a little bit, we'll say, complicated from an infrastructure standpoint, but we do like getting up there. 10 minutes, just about 10 minutes down in this one. Vic Aldrich, you can definitely see the red tires starting to go away there. He's fallen 2.5 seconds back of AJ Digby in third. Top three separated, we'll call it by 3 car lengths for the race lead, 2 car lengths, the battle for second. Everybody else more than 2 seconds back. In fact, the gap from Vic Aldrich to Matt Wagner, 6.4 seconds and counting. Lap number 7 up on the board should be about another 3 or so laps, and then we will see your race leaders down pit lane. Vic Aldrich, we may see him down pit lane a little bit sooner, and that's where the math starts to get a little bit unfavorable for Mr. Aldrich. If you're only going to get 5 to 6 laps out of the run on the red tires, just too much of a gamble to take there. Coates opening up the gap to 0.6 of a second over James Watson. AJ Digby sitting about 0.4 back of Watson for the third position. Vic Aldrich now falling about 3.4, 3.5 seconds back of this top 3. And unfortunately, looks like Gary Corley will be the first car out of this race. Oh, and AJ Digby down pit lane early here. Interesting call that we're going to see AJ Digby down pit lane here at lap number 7. Appears to be routine service. Yeah, and he's down and away. 7.7 seconds on the clock for the crew of AJ Digby. Going to drop Digby back to the 6th position, and he goes out on the red. Maybe taking a little bit of a cue there from Vic Aldrich, knowing about how many laps you're going to get out of those red tires. You almost wonder if Digby isn't necessarily planning on potentially a 3-stop race. I want to thank you all that are tuning in on YouTube and on Twitch. Make sure you give it a like and a share if you're enjoying the show here. Helps us out with the algorithm. Your comments. Also, the more comments we get, the more YouTube thinks the stuff needs to be seen by the rest of the world. Alec Coates has opened up a 9, almost, well, Watson's going to close it back in here to about 7:10. Both Alec Coates and James Watson will stay out on the racetrack here for lap number 9. And we are seeing right about 21 laps to go here from this point. You're able to stretch this out to a 10-lap stint as we see Vic Aldrich coming down pit lane. Aldrich's crew finishes their work 8.9 seconds, losing 1.1 seconds to AJ Digby in the exchange of pit stops there. As a reminder, coming up next here at 10:15 in the East, it will be the Indy Pro 2000 Championship from Donington Circuit over in England, our first trip over there. No, but we were saying if you're able to stretch it out to a 10-lap or so stint, it's going to put you down to about 8, maybe 9 laps that you would have to run on the red tires at the end of the race. If you can get it out to 11-lap stints, here comes Watson up the inside of the racetrack. James Watson moves through to the race lead as Coates swings well wide. How about it? New race leader James Watson at the line. 34 minutes remaining. And about 20 laps to go. Seems like Coates going to maybe a little bit content here to sit in line with Watson. Maybe do a little bit of fuel saving, tucking up. You are going to get a little bit of a draft, especially on the big straightaway. But Watson very good on the fuel numbers as well. 9.5 laps completed by your race leaders. Likely to see them both down pit lane. Matt Wagner up to 3rd with some of the drivers taking pit stops already. Wagner currently 11 and change seconds behind your 2 race leaders. Ooh, a little bit of a bobble for Watson there at the entry. Coates not going to be able to take advantage. See what he can do here down the straightaway. Yeah, just kind of no desire to swing out. Well, maybe he will. Into turn number 15. Coates goes back to the lead. And here comes James Watson down pit lane. Second place, James Watson is in. Alec Coates stays out on the racetrack. If you're able to make 11 laps, that gets you down to about a 6-lap stint on the Reds. That could be huge late in this race. Trouble for Jason Hand out on the racetrack. See if we can see what happened here. Oh, just overcooked the brakes big time. Got out off track a little bit. Back on the racing surface. No harm, no foul. 8.63 seconds, the time of the stop for James Watson. He gets back out onto the racetrack. He will fall in line behind Alec Coates, Matt Wagner, and AJ Digby. See when race leader Alec Coates will come down pit lane. And you really have to wonder if Matt Wagner is not going for some crazy big brain strategy here. Everything we heard is all but impossible to make this a one-stop race. However, they only got to go about 5 more minutes, but here comes your race leader down pit lane. Alec Coates heading for the pit area. We'll see if Matt Wagner's going to come in this time as Christian Jasper comes back around. He will put himself 1 lap down now. And makes his way back out onto the racetrack. Matt Wagner entering the pit lane as well. You see Wagner hitting his box. AJ Digby will assume the race lead. Oh, big slide there for Alec Coates. And we've got 1 car off the racetrack. That's going to be Jason Hand. Here's James Watson having to peek to the inside of Coates. He'll get the pass completed. But now they're trying to chase down AJ Digby. James Watson on the harder black compound tires. Alec Coates and Digby both on the red. But at the exchange of pit stops, Digby, 6.8 seconds. That was huge. 9.95. Seconds for Matt Wagner on pit lane. Surf Gonzo is checking in. We've got to get this comment up on the air because I absolutely love it. This is more a question for the admins, but is there a chance of a race at the old Phoenix infield road course? I know I wouldn't be against it. Some of the old Rovals were so terrible, they were actually pretty good. Man, Watson really gaining on AJ Digby here as well. The gap was over 6 seconds at the start of the lap. It's now down to 5.7 seconds. So about 1/4 second per lap Watson's going to gain here. And a lot of time to be made up once the red tires hit their cliff. Digby may already be there. He only was able to go 7 laps on the first set of tires. And he's already 5 laps in to the stint on the red as Nick DeGroot and Conor Baldwin making their way down pit lane. DeGroot stopping after 12 laps. Not quite to halfway, but he is only going to have to do a handful of laps on the red before he can come in, put the black tires back on. Lap traffic hopping out of the way here for this battle between Watson and Coates. Nick DeGroot, 9.33 seconds. Conor Baldwin also on pit lane, 8.83 seconds for 4 fresh Firestone Firehawks and a full tank of Speedway Racing fuel. Technically an 80% tank, as that's the fuel limit that the ESRA INDYCAR Series runs. Watson doing a nice job of holding off Alec Coates to this point. Coates is going to have to make a move if he wants to try to open things up on Watson, and it'll come here down the back straightaway. Following along with some of the other storylines that we picked up over the course of the night, Matt Wagner, after not qualifying or even making an attempt, I guess, yeah, Matt Wagner did not make an attempt to qualify. He will be currently in the 5th position, about 2 seconds back of Vic Aldrich running in 4th. There you see Vic just up the road. The other one is Conor Baldwin. He was lights out faster than the rest of the field in both practice and qualifying. Holds the fastest lap of the race at a 1:42.836. Currently in the 7th position and making up a ton of time on 6th place running Nick DeGroot. Alec Coates after the pass on James Watson. Here's the benefit of the red tires, already 0.8 of a second that Coates has made up. About 30 seconds or so from the halfway point here in tonight's ESRA INDYCAR Series penultimate round of the season. From Sebring, final race will be coming up next week. That one heading off for the Chicagoland Speedway. Pack racing at its finest for a 100-lap feature to close out the season. We'll pick up Vic Aldrich here as Matt Wagner has the gap down to about 0.7 of a second. Down to 15 laps to go here for your race leaders. Oh, Wagner's going to overshoot the corner. He was close up on a Vic Aldrich as TJ McMurray gets off the racetrack just ahead of this battle. Conor Baldwin, another new fastest lap of the race, 1:42.228. Baldwin trying to close in here on Nick DeGroot to get him up to the 6th position. But he is just going to have so much time to make up here. Jeff Destino having an issue as well. In fact, right as he came out of pit lane. So right now, still 9 cars out on the racetrack. TJ McMurray heading back out onto the racetrack as well, swapping out onto the red tires. Ty Richter having a little bit of an off track out of the 8th position. Conor Baldwin absolutely just flew past Nick DeGroot here. We're going to stay with this battle, but we'll show you the pass on the Hot Shoe Raceway instant replay in just a moment. Wagner is right there, trying to set up Vic Aldrich for the pass. This is for the 4th position. We are now inside of 22 minutes remaining. Wagner going to have the look up the inside into turn 15. Aldrich going to stick right with him. Slides a little bit wide. Wagner will get the pass completed. Put Matt Wagner up to position number 4. Alec Coates now going to have to contend with James Watson. We talked about the tire fall off. About 5 laps into the stint, Watson starting to close in pretty rapidly here as AJ Digby currently working the 9th lap of his stint. Problem is, I think Digby's going to have to go at least another 2 laps to be able to make it on one more stop. Oh, I love the comment from Forrest Baldwin coming in here. Connie B battling back, powered by that good Texas beef. Yes, the soon-to-be Texas A&M Aggie, Conor Baldwin. Currently in the 6th position, now that the battles are kind of puckering out a little bit here, petering out, whatever you want to call them. There's the pass. Conor Baldwin, yeah, Nick Groot just straight up clearing out of the way for Baldwin down the back straightaway. Coates thus far doing a nice job holding off James Watson. You almost wonder if 2 stints on the Reds could be the call here tonight. AJ Digby, 10 laps into the run. We'll see if he's going to come down pit road this time. I think about 11 and a half laps to go based on the clock. I figured the answer would have been 2 stints of black tires, 1 stint on the Reds because of the fall off. Looks like AJ Digby may be proving me wrong here. And if the strategy call, the right call, is 2 stints on the Reds, definitely going to catch James Watson out a little bit here. Now, Matt Wagner still about 10 seconds or so back, 10 1/3 seconds behind Watson. How about it? AJ Digby going to stay out for another lap here on these Firestone Reds. 11 laps on the stint and about 11 laps to go. Big brain move by AJ Digby, electing to stop at lap 7. He put on the red tires. He now has Alec Coates chasing him, also on the Reds. Now, a little bit newer Reds, 4 laps newer, in fact. But James Watson is not making up a ton of ground here on Alec Coates. So looks like the fall off may be coming a little bit later than we might have anticipated. Jason Hand joining Gary Corley is one of the cars out of tonight's race. And going out after having completed, just barely completed over 12. So now the next question becomes, when do we see race leader AJ Digby? I would think he's probably going to have to come down this lap because the fuel stint number said you were only getting 10, maybe 11 laps. And Digby already pushing out to 12 here. And here he comes this time. Yes, race leader AJ Digby making his way onto pit lane. What will be his final stop of the race? Alec Coates comes past. James Watson comes past. But both Coates and Watson will be able to push significantly harder at this point, as Matt Wagner has also come past. Digby down and away, 9.97 seconds, the time of the stop for the number 14, looking for his second ESRA IndyCar win this season. We'll pick up Alec Coates and James Watson. Watson is closed back to within 1 second of the race leader. Christian Jasper following closely in line as well. Jasper caught up early in that lap 1 incident, currently being scored 1 lap behind your race leaders. Watson making up a little bit of ground here, just a tick slower than Alec Coates over the 5-lap average. We're only talking about 0.03 of a second separating those two. Oh, and James Watson going to come down pit lane this time. So Watson will make his final stop of the race with 9 laps remaining. And he will put on a fresh set of Firestone Reds. Now the question becomes, where does AJ Digby cycle out in all of this? Digby currently being scored about 20 seconds and closing hugely. Watson down and away, 8.28 seconds. There goes Digby past James Watson. Watson going to rejoin this race about 5 seconds behind your race leader. The strategy game fully in order here. Christian Jasper going to try to make his way around Alec Coates and get himself back onto the lead lap. Jasper will likely have one more stop to make, however. Surf Gonzo asking the question, is it too early for the undercut on tires? I don't think so, because at this point they're down to their final stop. And let's see, yeah, it's going to be this time for race leader Alec Coates as he makes his way down the pit lane. Again, it's AJ Digby sort of playing the undercut strategy from the beginning of the race. He stopped at lap number 7 to take off the Firestone Black and put on a set of Firestone Red. Matt Wagner on pit lane this time as well. And AJ Digby comes screaming past down the front straightaway. 8.57 seconds, time of the stop for Coates. Wagner down and away, 6.85 seconds. But James Watson, you see coming through into your picture there. Watson going to be up to third. Matt Wagner finally off the pit lane. He's going to be about 8 seconds back here of this battle for the third position. Digby, on the other hand, about 5.3 seconds ahead of both Coates and Watson. Interesting here that Alec Coates electing to go back out onto the Firestone Black tires. We only have about 7.5 laps to go. Looks like the race-winning strategy here is going to be a short stint on the black with a couple of longer stints on the red. Now Watson in kind of the same boat that Coates was in before. Watson has to get past Alec Coates here very, very quickly. Otherwise, he's going to burn off the tire advantage that he has running on the softer compound. You probably want to wait a lap or so for the tires to be up to temperature, but here comes Watson looking up the inside, and Coates has nowhere to defend but way to the outside. Put James Watson up to position number 2. Now he's going to have to go to work trying to chase down AJ Digby while continuing to fend off Alec Coates. Trouble on the racetrack for TJ McMurray. Let's take a look at this one here on the Hot Shoe Raceway instant replay. Slides it a little bit wide. That car is going to loop around. Going to be a no harm, no foul incident as McMurray able to grab a gear and drive away. Inside of 10 minutes remaining, more than 4/5 of the way through this race here at Sebring. Once again, as a reminder, coming up next at 10:15 in the East will be the Indy Pro 2000 Championship from Donington. Watson really starting to open up the gap now on Coates. He's going to be able to try to chase down AJ Digby, but it is going to be a hard row to hoe here. Pretty tight points battle in that Indy Pro 2000 Series. David Porcelli holding on to the lead over Everett Paddock and Nagisio Shikawa. Frank Wynn. Chris Preston also going to be in contention for that championship. Don't want to miss any of that action coming up here in about 45 minutes or so. But first, we still have 8 minutes and 45 seconds left to racing here at Sebring. And the gap is closing. James Watson averaging about 0.2 a lap quicker than AJ Digby right now. As Matt Wagner just set a new fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 42.127. Conor Baldwin on pit lane, continuing his recovery drive after the lap 1 incident. Trouble out there as well for Ty Richter. Take a look to see what happened here on the Hot Shoe Raceway instant replay. Man, almost an identical deal, but a huge impact. Nose first into the tire barriers, hits the wall again, and unfortunately, Richter will have to take the tow. Conor Baldwin taking 7.13 seconds for full service at his final pit stop. The gap sitting at 4.5 seconds between AJ Digby, your race leader, and second place running James Watson, but the gap now down to 3.8 seconds as Watson crosses the line. Christian Jasper just making his way out of the pit lane. Watson's trying to close, but I just don't know that there's enough time left in this race. Only about 4 laps to go here at Sebring. And AJ Digby continuing to hold that 3.8 second lead. Digby and Watson, a couple of your hard chargers tonight, up 4 positions from where they started the race. Matt Wagner, your hard charger overall, +7. After starting in the 11th position, now running in 4th. Nick DeGroot coming down pit lane for his final stop. Ty Richter, TJ McMurray, both still on pit lane. Alec Coates getting some company in the form of lap traffic. That's Christian Jasper. Not what Coates has to contend with here, down to the final 5 minutes of this one. Conor Baldwin, new fastest lap of the race, 141.347. He's trying to close in on Vic Aldrich. Fortunately, the gap's going to be about 13 seconds or so right now. James Watson has the lead down to 2 seconds flat with 4 minutes left to go. He can see AJ Digby out the front arrow screen of that number 39 machine. He's having to push. Is he giving up too much in tire life? Three minutes, 40 seconds remaining, down to about 2 laps to go here at Sebring. The gap holding steady at 2.3 seconds. Does Watson have anything for AJ Digby? This would be a monster final stint on the Reds for James Watson. The lead starting to creep back up now, back up to 2.8 seconds. for AJ Digby. That car right there, your number 14 machine. Needs to run these last couple of laps without any major mistake. Man, this is going to be tight whether we're down to 1 or 2 laps to go. Coming across the line with 1 minute, 50 seconds remaining. It will be 2 laps to go. Or at least very close to 2 laps to go. We'll see. I don't think this will be the white flag lap. Digby would really have to back off enough that Watson could get caught back up. The gap now sits at 3 seconds for your race leader. AJ Digby playing the very early undercut strategy. Electing to take Firestone Reds at lap number 7 may be the race-winning move here for AJ Digby as we are down to 50 seconds remaining. Oh man, down to 30 seconds left. This may be the final lap of the race. We'll see. It's going to be very, very close. Off the final corner, time still remains on the clock. White flag is out. 1 lap to go here at Sebring. This will be the final lap. Digby holding a now 3.2 second advantage over James Watson. Alec Coates going to be about 2.5 seconds back. He's closing a little bit. If that battle gets tight, we'll go to it. Same for the fight between Coates and Wagner. But one more clean lap with no mistakes is what AJ Digby is looking for right now. And Watson has absolutely cooked those red tires. It was a valiant drive to try and catch your race leader. But one that will ultimately prove unsuccessful here without an issue for AJ Digby. Looking for his second win of the season. Last time we talked to him in victory lane, AJ Digby saying putting the 14 back in victory lane where it belongs. Out of the final corner, he will do it again. AJ Digby wins at Sebring. James Watson, tight battle, but he is going to hold on for second over Alec Coates. Matt Wagner comes home in the 4th position. And 5th place, all by his lonesome through the final couple of corners here, will be Vic Aldrich. Nice run there, Vic, coming home in the 5th position. Conor Baldwin tried to recover from that lap 1 incident, but ultimately not enough. Conor Baldwin junks it right after the start-finish line. But that man, your star of the race, AJ Digby, He does it again, getting his second win. In fact, back-to-back wins for AJ Digby. June 30th, picking up the win at Worldwide Technology Raceway on the Oval, and he does it again here tonight at Sebring. As we wait for Digby to come around here, let's take a look and show you your race results. The win by 4 seconds over James Watson. Alec Coates going to come home third. Matt Wagner fourth. Vic Aldrich in the fifth position. Conor Baldwin sixth. Nick DeGroot seventh. Final car on the lead lap. Christian Jasper eighth after early lap 1 contact. Ninth, Jeff Destino. 10th, TJ McMurray. 11th, Ty Richter. And Jason Hand and Gary Corley both out of this race very early on. So while we wait for our race winner to jump into the room here for the post-race interviews, we'll get things queued up to talk to our second and third place finishers here tonight. And let's start things off here, coming out of pit lane with third place finisher tonight, Alec Coates. And man, I'll tell you what, bud, it looked like the strategy call. You were on the strategy that I kind of thought might be the best one to run. 2 stints on the blacks, 1 on the reds, and you kind of bookend the reds in the middle. So as soon as you feel the cliff, you get off of them. Ultimately, not the right call, but how do you develop that kind of strategy thought process in your head either before or during the race?
Well, first of all, I'm sweating real bad. But no, it's just on the fly as always with me. I wish I could map things out in my head and maybe have a better idea. But ultimately, I should have went start on the black and then red. I think would have maybe given me a little better of a shot. But AJ was pretty flawless tonight after that first stint. So I don't think anything was going to matter there. And then I didn't even realize we were getting the white. And I had 3 or 4 more push to passes I could have used on the lap before that because I ended up only, I think, like 3/10 off James. So I could have maybe had a shot at second there, but I waited a lap too long with that.
All in all, not a terrible points night for you as well, making up some ground here. What are your thoughts on that one here? It looks like you definitely passed TJ. You're going to be able to give James a run for his money here for a podium spot. But next week is such a wild card heading off to Chicagoland.
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite places, though. I'm from Chicago, so I would always go to the IndyCar races when they used to be there. So it's a perfect place for us to cap it off. It's going to be chaos. Hopefully, a lot of drivers show up for that one and give us some momentum into next season. But yeah, it's going to be a wild card. Upsetting. I had to miss one too many races here because I would have liked to see where I was at. I started the season horrible, and I've put some pretty dang good races together the last half of this season, so it's a little frustrating, but I got to be happy with what's been going on recently.
All right, bud. Well, congratulations on the podium finish here tonight. And before we let you go, get all those sponsor plugs and thank yous in.
Oh, yeah. Same as always, TJ McMurray for always keeping me looking good out here, and definitely the guys over at Area 51 for always supporting our league, just like we like to support theirs. So. And then you guys at National Racing Network always put on a great broadcast, even if it's a snoozer. I thought this one would be a snoozer, but I think we actually gave you some stuff to talk about, so happy with that.
Yeah, this one was interesting. With Baldwin wrecking himself out on lap 1, it kind of turned the whole race on its head and definitely had plenty to talk about. So thank you much, Alec. We appreciate you checking in with us here, and let's bring in our runner-up finisher here tonight, Mr. James Watson. Alex said he was sweating. How bad are you sweating? Because he was closing in a hurry on you late in that race.
It was a little nerve-wracking, but kind of calculated. I had burned off the reds something fierce trying to catch up to AJ, so I just had to go into putt mode and kind of eat into that the lead I had, and in the hopes that I made sure I brought it back to the checkered.
Yeah, it seemed like the right call was to go short stint on the blacks and then 2 long stints on the reds. Was that a little bit unexpected? And I mean, you went 2 stints on the blacks and then did the short stint there on the reds. Was that kind of what you were thinking was more going to be the optimal strategy call?
100%. I did not expect the Reds to hold up as well as they did, and I probably should have pulled the audible when I saw how well AJ was doing on them, but I didn't, and just one of those things.
I tell you what, though, but still a very good night in the points for you here. Looks like you're going to be very close with Alec here heading in late in this one, but I think you did enough to get past Conor Baldwin. Maybe enough to even challenge Matt here for a championship heading next week into Chicagoland.
That's not something I can or am gonna bank on. I still need a lot of breaks to go my way. Yeah, tonight was huge. This is pretty much what I needed to happen. But yeah, I'm just happy I was able to close the gap and to at least being within striking distance of the crown here going into the finale.
And the number, by the way, is 14 points that will separate you from Matt Wagner when we take the green flag next week. Very doable. Good luck to you in that one. But before we let you go here, let's get all those sponsor plugs and thank yous in.
Yes, sir. Got to thank everyone back home at Team Watson Racing Setups. Go to teamwatsonracing.com to be a part of the wild side of setup making. I got to thank you and everyone else at NRN, Mart Sports 906 Sim Racing Apparel, ZAS Designs for putting together all my paints.
All right, bud. Well, thank you much. We look forward to chatting with you here in just a couple of minutes for our Indy Pro 2000 broadcast. But first, we got to talk to the big brain guy of the night, Mr. AJ Digby, picking up his second consecutive win in the ESRA INDYCAR Series. Congratulations on the win. Man, I did not see that strategy call being the right one to make. At what point did you say, I can do this on 2 longer stints on the Reds as opposed to 2 longer stints on the Black?
Well, my pre-calculations before the race were saying it would probably be about 28 to 29 laps for the race, approximately, with the 50-minute window. Obviously, that can change a little bit here or there, but I was thinking it was going to be 28, 29, probably 29. And so I knew that I just needed to get to a point where I could comfortably run to the end. And to me, that window was around lap 6, 7, 8, and hope that those guys didn't undercut it. And I almost came in on 6. I'm glad I didn't, because then I might have had to save a little bit more throughout the last 2 stints. But I came in at the right time. I knew I could make the Reds hold on. I had done a full stint in practice that had gone really well, so just switched onto the Reds, really pushed those first 2 laps, and then when they didn't cover, then I knew that I was going to be okay, at least to get out in front of them. And then just knew that I had to be able to keep my pace and be smooth to stay out in front. So yeah, I mean, I knew that I was stuck behind them. It felt like I wasn't immensely faster than them, but I knew I was a little bit quicker than them, and I also knew that I could hold on to it with a red stint. So when none of them pit on lap 6, and then lap 7 coming around, I was like, okay, I'm gonna pit here. None of them pit, and I was like, perfect. I can get in, get my stuff done, and jump them up into the lead, and that's exactly what happened.
And at that point, it almost becomes a little bit of a hot lapping session because you really didn't have anybody close to you that you were battling with. James gave you a nice, I'll say a little bit of a push in that 3rd stint. But was there any real concern knowing what the tire wear was going to be like, that he was probably going to burn those Reds off anyway the way he did?
Well, it helped me knowing that I had done a full stint on Reds, so I kind of knew how they would feel over the course of the stint. Those first couple laps were definitely hot laps. Not quite qualifying pace because I knew that the Reds had enough speed, and I was only 1 point whatever behind the leader that even one decent lap or two decent laps or one really good lap could get me up in front. So I didn't quite qualifying push, but I was pushing. And then once I had that covered off, then I just tried to be as smooth as I could. And yeah, I mean, coming out with a 5-second lead, I knew that helped. That if James were to catch me, he would have had to push to do it. And so that second stint, I was just trying to be smooth on the tires and be mindful, and made a couple slight mistakes by going too easy, I think. And then at the very end, picked it back up a little bit. So yeah, those guys were tough. They made me stay on the edge. I had to keep the car driving. I mean, I wasn't going 100%, but I definitely had to keep the throttle down a little bit more than I would have liked to, because those guys were both coming. So, but definitely, yeah, an extremely fast car today, extremely fast race pace, and was just excited to get out there and be able to show it.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun to watch, and it was. I was floored. I thought you had an incident on the racetrack when you came in at lap 7, and then we watched things develop, and you went, "Oh man, what a brilliant call that was!" It shows the preparation that goes into it, and even if you're only doing it in the practice session before the race, so much insight to be gained there, and quite frankly, we see you do that in multiple series here, both the Sim Racers Club and now here in ESRA. Congratulations on the win there, AJ, and let's get any shout-outs and thank yous in here before we let you go.
Yeah, thank you. I've been trying to convince my dad that I need to go into being an IndyCar strategist for a race team, but totally joking there. I can't commit to that schedule. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun. So definitely got to thank everybody who was in the race. Made it a good race. I kind of feel bad for the people who had the issue on lap 1, and then Connor had his issue at the end of lap 1. So not entirely sure what all happened there, but feel bad for those guys, because I know some of them were really quick and would have made it an even 5 or 6 car battle at the front. But got to thank everybody in the series, the guys who run the series for making it possible, you guys for the amazing broadcast every week. As always, can't wait to go back and watch it. And yeah, that's about it. So everybody else who was watching and supporting, thank you, whether it was supporting me or supporting others. Thank you for tuning in and watching. And yeah, it's been a fun year. Just wish I could have been there for every single race and had a chance at the championship, especially missing out on Indy. Was a bummer, but life comes at you sometimes. So excited to be able to get out here when I can and have put together a couple really good runs as of late.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you much. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us here. And man, if we get AJ Digby in a full season run next year, my goodness, that is going to be wild. He's going to give Matt Wagner, Nick DeGroot on the ovals, Craig Forsyth, Eric Schaus, even, and then all the regulars, James Watson, Alec Coates, Vic. Man, there's a lot of talent in this league, and quite frankly, it's been a ton of fun to broadcast. But we've got the season finale coming up next week from Chicagoland Speedway. Looking forward to that one in a very big way. Going to preface it with the Sim Racers Club on Wednesday night, followed by the High Side Hustle next Thursday night at 7 p.m. in the East. Tune in for Burt Wojcik and Adam Rubright making a fool out of themselves live on the internet. We'll be back here with the ESRA IndyCar Series, and coming up next at 10:15 in the East, it will be the Indy Pro 2000 Championship coming to you live from Donington over in England. Can't wait to make our first visit over there. But with that, time for us to get the heck on out of here. For everybody at the National Racing Network that helps make these broadcasts happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We will talk to you all soon. Have a good night, everybody.